What's up YouTube? This is Tony and welcome to dev.py. This is a channel that's going to teach you how to code like a boss. This is the second video in our Getting Started series on how to develop code with Python, and today we're going to talk about IDEs. More specifically, the PyCharm IDE, and how IDEs can help you build software much easier. There's a lot of cool quality of life features built into IDEs that allow you to write code. So let's get started. So you want to write Python code, but where do you begin? Well, first off, you need to start out with at least a text editor of some sort. You have to write your code somewhere. You can use something like Notepad++ or Microsoft Word to write your code and interpret it or compile it from a text document. That would actually work in some cases. But we can do better. We can actually evolve and gain some additional functionality to help us write our code. Just writing it in a text editor doesn't really do anything for you. You have to know everything in your head when you write code that way. And I'm just going to be honest, not all of us are that smart where we can just, remember everything just off the top of our heads. And so using something called an IDE can help us. An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and it's much more than just a code editor. While it does include code editing capabilities for you to actually write your code, it also gives you access to a bunch of plugins or features within an IDE that help you write your code better. For instance, an IDE gives you access to features or plugins which will actually watch your code as you write it and tell you if you're making a mistake. It's really nice for the software to tell you that you're messing something up before actually getting to the end of writing your code and then finding out you messed something up and then having to go back and fix it. There's a lot of plugins that will help you find these things as you go. There are also plugins which help you standardize the way you write your code. For instance, the PEP8 standard is a standard that is used by all sorts of organizations to write code. It's a standard way to write and read code. Code can be written in all sorts of ways, and you can certainly overcomplicate or make your code be unreadable or unhuman readable. You want other people to be able to read your code, and so a lot of these standards are put in place to help with that, to help with a standard way of writing and establishing some baseline for writing code so that it can be understood by the greater audience. IDEs also come with debugging capabilities, and so you can actually execute the code that you write to check on the progress and the processing logic of the code that you've written to validate that it's functioning properly before actually building or delivering the final product of your code. And so this is what IDEs are all about, and we're going to show you how all of this works with PyCharm. So to start out, we're going to download PyCharm. We're simply just going to go to google.com, type in the word PyCharm, and find our download link to or find our homepage link for the PyCharm homepage. On the homepage, there's a download link. If you go there, it will detect which operating system you're on and give you links to download the software locally onto your machine. So we're going to download that. Once it's downloaded, we're going to run the installer and install PyCharm locally. It's very, very simple. Just follow your normal on-screen instructions to install the software, agree to any licensing. This particular version of PyCharm is the Community Edition. Don't download the Professional Edition, that costs money. The Community Edition is free and works for everything that we're going to need. So just use the Community Edition when you download. So here's what it looks like when you start up PyCharm for the first time. Just accept the community licensing agreement, and this is what it looks like to start up PyCharm. What we're going to do first is we're going to create a new project. So in the center page here, you can see you can create a new project, open an existing project, or actually pull a project from a GitHub or GitLab repository. So we're going to create new. Up at the very top, you can define the folder that you want to save all of your source code in. And so we're going to save this into a folder called the basics. And then after that, we're going to specify which Python interpreter we want to use. So here we're going to select the use an existing interpreter, and we're going to hit the three little dots on the far right to look for the virtual environments that we set up in our previous video. If you haven't seen it yet, please go back to our first Getting Started with Python video, and it will give you instructions on how to build these virtual environments. In this case, we built out a virtual environment for Python 3.10. And so if you go to that folder, it was the dev.py folder that we saved it in. You open up the 3.10.5 virtual environment folder, go into the binary folder within it, and then select the Python 3.10 interpreter. You want to check the box to make the interpreter available to all your projects, and then leave the checkbox checked to create some starter Python scripts that we can use to validate, and then hit OK. This will actually start up a new project in PyCharm, which is what you see here. And on the left-hand side is the file directory viewer. You can see all of the source code files that are in your PyCharm project. Right now there's just a main.py script that was auto-populated by PyCharm when we created this project. That's what we wanted it to do. And on the right-hand side is the code editor. That's where you can see all of the code from that script. It's what we currently have selected. Typically, if you want to view a script on the left-hand side, all you got to do is just double-click which file you want to view, and it will populate in the code editor side on the right side. Basically, what this script is doing at the very bottom is it's executing a print command. It's a very basic command to print a string or a set of characters onto your console. In this case, it's got a hello message from Python. And so it's doing so by executing a function that prints the message. And so you can execute the script either by pressing Command R on a Mac or by pressing the play button once you've selected the script on the top right corner. You can see that play button. What that does is it opens up the terminal on the bottom section of your IDE and actually it displays the output of your script. So this is a really handy thing that's built into the IDE that allows you to see the output of the script that you write. And so basically what we're doing here, something I like to do is to configure PyCharm to view certain things granularly. So you can hit that cog button, go to the Show Members option in the View menu, and then that will actually break down the code inside of the left-hand file directory view a little bit nicer so that you can see, the functions or classes within your script. What we're showing down here is the actual Python console that's attached to the interpreter that you selected for this virtual environment. And so this is the actual 3.10.5 Python interpreter that we selected. You can access its console directly, and you can do real-time, test out, commands in Python. You can test out functions. You can test out libraries and import libraries directly for, using the Python interpreter from here. So this is a really nice feature of IDEs. It gives you direct access to the interpreter, and you can test things out. This is what I typically use. Dealing with like lists or dictionaries. You want to know how something works. Think of it as kind of like a scratch place that you can test out Python code if you need to. That's what I typically use it for. Here you can go to the top left, click on the PyCharm file menu, go to Preferences, and this is where you can set kind of like your appearance, all of your IDE specific settings. There are a ton of them. I totally suggest, if you want to customize your PyCharm or IDE experience with any IDE, go to the website, look up the documentation on the knowledge board. There's so much information here on how to customize everything. I typically just stick with the defaults. I don't really customize it that much. However, here, if you go down to the project, you can actually select the interpreter, and from within the interpreter, you can actually add libraries directly into the virtual environment from here. So for instance, if you need something like the requests library to do API calls, you can download that library directly through here. Underneath the hood It uses pip, which is the default package manager for Python that comes with Python when you install it. But the IDE gives you a nice graphical user interface you can use to install that yourself. What we're showing here is also access. You have a tab for your terminal. And so just like the Mac terminal, it exposes that same terminal within the IDE. So instead of executing your code using the play button or the command R function, you can execute it directly from the command line and see your code run as if it were executed from a command line. So all your output would show up in the standard out of your terminal. You can do your normal Python commands. You can do all your normal command line stuff in the terminal. What we're showing here next is the debugging functionality. So that red bubble that's next to the print statement in the code editor is called a breakpoint. That's where you can set where you tell the IDE to stop so that you can see what's being interpreted at that time. So this is a cool way to find or fix problems with your code. This is a way for you to view your code as it's being processed or interpreted real time. So these are all great functionalities that are that are brought to the table using IDE, and that pretty much wraps it up. In our next video, we'll get to writing scripts and testing more things. So that wraps it up for our second video. That's a very quick introductory to IDEs. That's the basics of what you need. You just need to install it, run it. You don't have to customize it that much. We're not going to really need to customize it to show you how to do code in Python. And so it's a very simple, very quick and easy way. I intended this video to be very quick, very easy, and to give you an overview of the intended use of these things to help you write your code. And so I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button. If you want to continue with all of the trainings that are going to be coming ahead, moving into Python, now we're going to start getting into the exciting stuff. We're actually going to start writing software in our IDE. We've got the basic foundation already in place. We've got our virtual environments, we've got our IDE. Now we're ready to code. So if you want to keep up with that, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so that you can be notified whenever a new video comes out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.